At 8 months pregnant, my mother and sister demanded I hand over my $120,000 baby fund during a family dinner. When I refused, the argument turned ugly. I stumbled against the door, and in that exact moment my water broke. But the most heartbreaking part wasn't the argument itself. It was my mother's reaction afterward. Before I continue, please make sure to subscribe to the channel for more true emotional stories that will leave you speechless. My name is Claire, I'm 30 years old, and this is the story of how the people who were supposed to love me the most tried to break me, and how the baby I was carrying gave me the strength to survive. I live in Denver with my husband, Daniel. We were just weeks away from welcoming our first child, a baby boy we had already named Noah. At 8 months pregnant, I had fallen completely in love with him. Every flutter of his little feet inside me, every hiccup, every heartbeat during ultrasounds, it all felt like pure magic. Daniel has been my steady rock throughout the pregnancy. He never missed a single appointment, even when his deadlines at work piled up. He was the type of man who stayed up late reading baby books, who put together the crib with a big smile, who rubbed my back whenever I woke up crying from anxiety in the middle of the night. For the past 2 years, Daniel and I had been preparing for this child with absolute devotion. We skipped vacations, stopped eating out, and saved every extra dollar. Slowly, we built up a fund of $120,000, a financial safety net for Noah's birth, any possible NICU expenses, and unforeseen emergencies. It wasn't just money. It was security. It was love in numbers. It was peace of mind. Daniel's parents, Margaret and Henry, had been nothing short of amazing. They treated me as if I was their own daughter. Margaret had already knitted enough baby clothes to fill a closet, and Henry made sure I never missed a dose of prenatal vitamins. Their home became a safe haven for me, a place where I felt understood, supported, and loved. But my own family, that was an entirely different story. My mother, Linda, and my younger sister, Chloe, had always carried resentment toward me. Linda often claimed I was too proud, that I lived in a fantasy world just because I'd married a decent man. Chloe was worse. Her bitterness dripped into every word, every look. She criticized my appearance, mocked my decisions, and loved making me feel small. When they heard I was pregnant, they didn't congratulate me with genuine joy. Their smiles were thin, their words hollow. But when they learned about the money Daniel and I had saved, something shifted. Suddenly, they were calling more often, weaving guilt into every conversation. Linda would say things like, "A real daughter helps her family. Money isn't everything, Claire. What's the point of saving when your mother needs you?" And Chloe, she was blunt. One night she texted me a long message that dripped with venom. "You're selfish. You don't deserve your so-called perfect life or that husband of yours. Karma will catch up with you." I stared at my phone, my heart pounding, too shaken to reply. Noah kicked hard that night, as if reminding me of what really mattered. I placed my hands on my belly and whispered, "You're the reason I'll stay strong." Daniel held me as I cried, and I knew I had to protect my son no matter what. But the harassment only grew. Linda began calling every single day, turning each call into a lecture. "You think money grows on trees? You've forgotten where you came from. Do you care more about your comfort than your own blood?" Meanwhile, Chloe mocked me on social media. She posted vague but cruel statuses about spoiled sisters who pretend to be saints, and women who think money makes them better. Daniel was furious when he saw them. "She's targeting you, Claire. You're carrying our child and they're filling your life with poison," he said, gripping my phone tightly. "I know," I whispered, exhausted. "But if I block them, they'll just find another way to explode." I'm trying to stay calm for Noah. Then one evening, Linda and Chloe called together. Their voices rang with anger. "I raised you, Claire. I fed you. And this is how you repay me? By turning your back on family?" Linda shouted. "You're not the only one with dreams," Chloe snapped. "We're struggling while you're sitting on a mountain of cash." I tried to steady my voice. "This isn't luxury. This money is for my baby's safety. For his medical care if anything goes wrong." There was silence, then Linda spat. "That man has turned you against us. You're no daughter of mine." The line went dead. I sat frozen, my belly tightening with stress. A few days later, Linda called again. But her voice was different this time. Soft, almost gentle. "Let's forget the past. Come for dinner on Sunday. I want a fresh start." Part of me wanted to say no, but another part, the part that still longed for a mother's love, Whispered, what if she really means it? Against my better judgment, Daniel and I agreed. When we arrived at the house, it felt strange. Everything was unusually clean, the table already set. My father, Richard, hugged me tightly, his voice low in my ear. Stay close to Daniel. Don't let your guard down. Linda welcomed us with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Chloe sat at the table with a smug little grin. We began dinner, but the air was heavy with tension. Small talk didn't last long. Linda finally dropped her fork and leaned forward. Let's not dance around it. We all know why we're here. My stomach knotted. You've got that fund, Chloe said sharply. And you're letting your so-called family suffer while you hoard it. Daniel's voice was firm. That money is for our baby. This dinner was supposed to be about peace, not this nonsense. Linda's face hardened. Don't you dare speak for her. She's my daughter, not your puppet. Richard stood, his hands shaking. Enough. This isn't what tonight was supposed to be. But Linda wasn't finished. I gave you everything, Claire. And now you're too good for us. I rose slowly, one hand resting protectively over my belly. No, Mom. I'm not too good for anyone. I've just learned what real love looks like. And this isn't it. Then get out. Linda screamed, her face twisting with rage. Gladly, I said, reaching for Daniel's hand. But before we could leave, Chloe jumped up and blocked the hallway. Her eyes burned with fury. No, she hissed. You don't get to walk away this time. Chloe, move, Daniel ordered, his voice low and sharp. She didn't move. Linda just stood there, arms folded, her expression cold. Move, I said again, my voice shaking. Chloe's lip curled into a cruel sneer. You've always had it easy. Let's see how easy this feels. And then, before I could process what was happening, she lunged at me. Her foot connected with my swollen belly in one brutal, unforgiving kick. The pain was indescribable, a white-hot explosion that stole my breath. I screamed as my body collapsed to the floor. In that instant, a warm gush spread down my legs. My water had broken. I was sobbing, my mind screaming in terror that I was losing my baby. Daniel dropped to the ground beside me, shouting, his voice frantic. Call 911. Somebody help her. My father rushed forward, kneeling at my side, his face pale. I looked up at Chloe. She stood motionless, a sickening triumph glinting in her eyes. And behind her, my mother just stared at me, arms folded, her face cold and unfeeling as I bled on her floor. The betrayal cut deeper than the pain. The world blurred into chaos. Sirens, flashing lights, strangers shouting orders. Paramedics rushed in, lifting me onto a stretcher. Daniel gripped my hand, his voice cracking as he begged the 911 operator for help. As they wheeled me out, I saw a police officer, his badge gleaming under the flashing lights. His voice was steady but filled with fury as he turned to Chloe. You are under arrest for felony assault on a pregnant woman and endangering the life of an unborn child. The metallic snap of handcuffs echoed like a small taste of justice. Then he turned to Linda. And you stood there and did nothing. You're under arrest as an accessory. Linda's face went pale. I didn't touch her, she shrieked. Exactly, the officer replied coldly. That's the problem. And as they loaded me into the ambulance, I clutched Daniel's hand with all my strength, whispering through tears, please just save my baby. The ambulance raced through the night, its sirens slicing the silence into sharp, terrifying pieces. I clutched Daniel's hand with everything I had left. My belly burned with pain and every jolt of the road felt like fire tearing through me. Stay with me, Claire, Daniel begged, his face pale with fear. Don't you dare close your eyes. I can't lose him, I sobbed, my voice breaking. Please, Daniel. Please. The paramedics worked quickly, strapping monitors to me, shouting numbers I couldn't understand. One of them leaned close and said firmly, we're almost there. Hold on for your baby. Those words became my lifeline. By the time we burst through the hospital doors, my world had already started to fade into darkness. A doctor's voice rang out above the chaos. She's 8 months pregnant. Abdominal trauma. Premature labor. Prep for emergency C-section. Now. I felt the sting of anesthesia flood through me, and before the world went black, I whispered the only prayer that mattered. Save my baby. When I woke, the room was dim and quiet. the air humming with the steady rhythm of a heart monitor. My body ached from surgery, my abdomen bandaged, but my arms were empty. Panic ripped through me. Noah. My voice cracked. Where's my baby? A nurse appeared quickly, her face gentle. Your son is in the NICU, but he's stable. He's small, but he's breathing on his own. Relief hit me so hard I broke into sobs. He was alive. Against all odds, he was alive. Moments later, Daniel rushed in, his eyes red-rimmed but filled with love. He sat on the edge of the bed, taking my hand in both of his. He's here, Claire. He's tiny, but he's a fighter. Just like his mom. That night, while I drifted in and out of sleep, Daniel visited Noah in the NICU and brought back a small photo. It showed the tiniest baby I'd ever seen, wrapped in wires and tubes, his chest rising and falling with effort. My heart ached, but also swelled with pride. He was mine. He was fighting. The next morning, I was finally wheeled into the NICU. Seeing him in the incubator made my breath catch. He looked impossibly small, but his heartbeat was steady, determined. I reached through the plastic opening and touched his hand. His fingers, no bigger than a paperclip, curled tightly around mine. You made it, I whispered through tears. And now I will protect you with everything I have. While I recovered, Officer Bennett, the police officer who had arrested Chloe and Linda, came to see me at the hospital. His expression was serious but compassionate. Claire, he said gently, we have everything documented. Your father gave us the home's security footage. We have witness statements, medical records, everything. This case is strong. They won't get away with what they did. Hearing those words, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Validation. For once, the truth wasn't being twisted against me. Daniel also worked closely with our attorney, Michael, who explained the charges in clear, firm words. Chloe is facing aggravated assault on a pregnant woman and endangering the life of an unborn child. Linda is facing accessory to assault and failure to provide aid. These are serious felonies. We'll fight for the maximum sentencing. Margaret and Henry, my incredible in-laws, became my pillars during those weeks. They brought food, sat with me in the hospital, and whispered encouragement when I felt like breaking. Margaret stroked my hair one evening and said softly, "Don't let anyone make you doubt yourself, Claire. You're stronger than you know. You brought life into this world. That's the greatest power there is." Days blurred into nights as Noah fought in the NICU. Slowly, miraculously, the tubes and wires began to disappear one by one. The nurses started calling him their little warrior. Each time I held him against my chest, feeling his fragile heartbeat against mine, I whispered promises I would never break. 2 weeks later, the doctor came into my room with a rare smile. "He's doing incredibly well. If he keeps this progress, you'll be able to take him home soon." I cried so hard Daniel had to hold me upright. "We're almost there," he whispered, his forehead pressed against mine. "No one can hurt us anymore." But the battle wasn't over. 2 months later, we walked into the courthouse hand in hand. I wore a simple navy dress, still tender from the surgery but stronger than I had ever been. Daniel's grip was firm and grounding. My father, Richard, sat behind us, his face pale but determined. Margaret and Henry sat beside him, a wall of love and support. When the guards led Chloe and Linda into the courtroom, a chill went down my spine. Chloe's eyes darted around nervously, her bravado gone. Linda looked older, bitterness etched deep into her face. The trial began with the prosecutor's opening statement, laying out the brutality of the assault. Then the security footage played for the entire courtroom. The room fell silent as the video showed Chloe kicking me, my body collapsing, the gush of fluid spreading across the floor, and Linda standing frozen, arms folded, watching it all unfold without lifting a hand. I saw jurors flinch. One woman put a hand to her mouth. The truth was undeniable. The defense tried to paint Chloe as emotionally overwhelmed and Linda as a mother in shock. But under cross-examination, their excuses fell apart. When it was my turn to speak, I stood before the jury, my knees shaking but my voice steady. I told them about the harassment, the manipulation, the pressure to give up the money meant for my son's life. I described the moment Chloe's foot hit my stomach, the terror of feeling my water break, and the devastation of seeing my mother stand by, cold and silent. "That $120,000 they wanted," I said, my voice breaking but strong, "wasn't for luxury. It wasn't for selfishness. It was for my child's life. When I said no, they didn't just try to punish me, they tried to destroy everything I had. The courtroom was still. Finally, the judge delivered his verdict. Chloe, he said firmly, you are sentenced to 6 years in state prison for aggravated assault and endangerment of an unborn child. Linda, he continued, his voice sharp, you are sentenced to 3 years in state prison as an accessory to felony assault. The gavel came down with a heavy crack, the sound ringing like the final closing of a chapter. Chloe turned to look at me as she was led away in handcuffs, but the fire in her eyes was gone. All that remained was emptiness. Linda never met my gaze. Outside the courthouse, Margaret wrapped me in her arms. You were so brave, she whispered. Noah will grow up knowing his mother is the strongest woman he'll ever meet. Richard approached me quietly, his voice thick with emotion. I'm sorry, Claire. I should have protected you better. But I want you to know, I'm proud of the woman you've become. I hugged him, tears running freely down my cheeks. 1 year later, our home is filled with laughter, toys scattered across the floor, and the sweet chaos of parenthood. Noah is healthy, strong, and full of light. His first birthday was a celebration of survival, of love, of everything we fought for. We don't talk about Linda or Chloe anymore. They are serving their sentences, living with the consequences of their choices. I never forgave them, because forgiveness belongs to those who show remorse, and they never did. But I did let go. I laid the pain down and walked away, choosing instead to build a life on love and strength. That night, after Noah drifted to sleep in his crib, I stood by the window, looking out at the quiet Denver street. For the first time in years, I felt safe. Truly safe. I had rebuilt my world from ashes. And this time it was unshakable, because it was built on truth, resilience, and a love so powerful it had survived the fire.